But House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says one of those threats is bigger than the others.
Russia is actively 24/7 interfering in our election. They did so in 2016, and they are doing so now.
Jillian, you have a background in national security. You talked to a number of members of the National Security Council. What do you think about what Nancy Pelosi's assessment is about who's the biggest threat?
Well, all the intelligence community folks who focus on election security for their job say it is possible to rank these countries in terms of who today, this snapshot in time, presents the biggest threat, but you can't hang your hat on that information on any kind of a ranking because it's changing and evolving so rapidly. So for example, Katie, today, Russia poses the biggest threat only because they have more experience today doing this kind of thing. They've been meddling in elections or trying to meddle in elections around the world for some time, whether it's the Brexit vote, whether it's other European countries' elections. But they all say that China is poised to overtake Russia and pose the biggest threat to the U.S. and to countries around the world very quickly. So it's a little bit spurious to say, well, worry about Russia more than China. The other thing is that there are actively, right now, dozens of countries around the world that would like to interfere and somehow influence our elections in one way or another. The U.S. is the greatest country, the greatest democracy in the world, but our laundry list of adversaries and competitors is long, and that brings with it threats. And so I think the intelligence community is right to, in any given moment in time, try and prioritize the biggest threats, but at the same time, they know the goalpost is constantly moving. So it's not really helpful to say this country or that country poses a bigger threat right now.
Charles, your thoughts?
I think every time a Democrat talks about China, President Xi of China does a cartwheel. Just never see any evil, never sees any problem with China. Oh, TikTok is just an app. Why are they focused on it? Oh, trade is okay. We're doing okay. I mean, I just never see. Why don't they see the threat that China is? Overall, it's significantly a larger threat to America than Russia is, and on almost every level. And if they're not there, to Jillian's point yet, on interference of elections, they'll get there. Their experience on stealing intellectual property, their experience on bullying, their experiences on knowing how to do this kind of stuff is amazing. They are the greatest threat to America, period. And so it's stupid to suggest that they're not a threat on any level, or certainly on the election level, when the fact of the matter is that we got to keep our eye on China. They're our main competition around the world, and they're not playing fair.
Yeah, Kennedy, I mean, it's either that they have a blind spot to China, Democrats generally, or they are deliberately ignoring the threat that they pose, not just now, but in the future.
Yeah, and the rationale is Russia wants to help President Trump get reelected. China wants Joe Biden to win because obviously Joe Biden is going to go a little bit softer, and he's betrayed that with some of his own comments, how he feels about China. My issue is with Nancy Pelosi because she's sitting here screaming that the house is on fire, but she's been the one with the fire hose the entire time. This is a legislative fix in terms of cybersecurity. So if you know what the issues are, if you know who the bad actors are, and you know what the vulnerabilities are, then pass some legislation that addresses that. Obviously, that should be at the top of the list in terms of priorities, and I'm sure there are plenty of Republicans in the House and Senate who would work with Nancy Pelosi on that kind of cybersecurity legislation, serious reform.